They erased Earth, silenced its people, and rewrote history, but memory has a way of surviving where empires fall. Humanity returned not with weapons, but with the truth the galaxy couldn't ignore, and it shattered everything. Now, the stars no longer fear us. They remember us. They told the galaxy that Earth was gone, that the humans, violent and unstable, had finally erased themselves in one last world war, some unsanctioned self-extinction during their atmospheric collapse, their cities crushed under orbital silence. The Galactic Federation, relieved rather than grieved, made no effort to verify. No memorials were built. No tribute was paid. Earth had been an embarrassment to the diplomatic project of universal civilization. A species with no unifying genome, no stable psychic field, no compliance with the collective ethos. When their signals stopped, the galactic archives were quietly updated. Status: terminated. Threat level: neutralized. But that was 112 cycles ago. Now, ships were disappearing. It began on the rim. Cargo convoys, deep system probes, a handful of observation platforms, all gone, without wreckage or signal flares. Some claimed it was the void wraiths, old myth given new paranoia. Others muttered about spatial storms, undetected anomalies, or rogue AIs. But then the Federation vessel Al-Ashar Prime, a diplomatic-class cruiser, vanished while en route to a neutral system. 5 sectors shut down trade. Panic crept like cold through vacuum. And from the black came a message. Not a threat. Not a warning. Just 3 words in a dead language. We remember Earth. The Federation convened an emergency assembly under the core spire, a gathering unseen in generations. Representatives of more than 200 species argued across languages, between neural overlays, over a single, impossible report. Because someone had recovered a drone. Burned, fractured, but intact enough to carry visual footage. The image showed a ship. Not sleek. Not curved in synthetic grace like Federation vessels. This one was brutal. Angled like a predator. Built not for diplomacy, but to survive being hunted. And on its hull, scorched into armor plates that shimmered in the dark, were 2 symbols. A broken planet. In the word, human. Some in the council claimed it was a fabrication. A hoax. No species destroyed in such chaos could have survived, let alone built that kind of vessel. Others said the footage was a fake, designed to provoke instability in the outer sectors. But deep in the foundation servers of the archives, an ancient access key lit green. A Terran code. One that had not been activated in over a century. It simply read: Protocol T, Delta, 9 engaged. Reclamation underway. On the edge of the Varn Rift, near a dead star system listed as uninhabitable, the ship known as the Waking Silence glided without propulsion. No lights. No emissions. Only one purpose. It was the first of the returned. A generation of humans grown in dark stations and ancient forges, people who had never walked Earth, but carried it like fire in their bones. Raised by fractured code and interstellar myths, they didn't speak of home as a place. Home was a memory made into steel. Captain Mara Ilvin stood at the observation screen, watching a Federation scout vessel creep along the gravity fold. Do we fire? Her weapons officer asked. She shook her head. No. Let them scan. Let them see. Won't they recognize our architecture? They don't understand what we've become. The Federation vessel pinged them. No response. They launched a recon drone. It disappeared, but not from weapons fire. It simply never returned. The Waking Silence broadcast one phrase. You watch us burn. Now watch us build. On Federation World channels, a fragment of that transmission leaked. It spread like contagion through data markets, rebel archives, and veterans networks. The phrase became a symbol. Within days, riots broke out on 3 worlds. Old grievances against the Council reignited. Border colonies began broadcasting Earth protocols, outlawed codes once taught only in secret military academies. Because the humans had vanished. But they had not been forgotten. And someone, somewhere, had preserved their story. Not as a tragedy, but as a blueprint. Inside the most restricted section of the Federation Intelligence Nexus, High Inquisitor Sarek Thal studied the recovered ship schematic with shaking hands. It shouldn't be possible, he muttered. His aide looked at him in confusion. The alloy patterns are based on projected metallurgy, not mind. It's built from theory. And yet it exists, Sarek said. He tapped a section of the hull. The scan revealed a pulsing energy signature encoded with variable neural feedback, impossible in practice. It reacts to memory, he whispered. A weapon that operated through remembrance. A ship that changed based on how well its pilot knew what had been lost. The aide whispered, then they've evolved. No, Sarek replied. They've returned exactly as they were. In the old corridors of Luna Station, thought destroyed in the Earth collapse, engines roared to life. Buried reactors long sealed under fusion locks now pulsed with power drawn from starlight. Children born in void space sang hymns about a planet they had never seen. The Eidolon Reclaimer was almost ready. It would be the first Terran capital vessel in over 100 years. And it would not carry diplomats. It would carry the past into battle. The Eidolon Reclaimer launched without ceremony. No Federation channels detected it. No warp signature marked its transit. It slid between gravity wells like smoke through fractures in glass. Beneath its obsidian armor pulsed the oldest fragment of Terran code ever preserved, the World Echo, a compressed digital memory of Earth's last 10 minutes before planetary silence. A child's laugh. A final orbital broadcast. The scream of atmosphere peeling away over the Pacific. Inside the ship's memory core, that sound echoed in quantum loop, not as despair, but as identity. Captain Halethorn stood on the bridge, gaze fixed on a real space map of Federation sectors. "We're not here to fight," he said. "But they'll see it as war," replied his first officer, Saran Vel. "They'll be half right." Far across the sector, Federation Patrol Group 11 engaged an unidentified ship matching the now infamous Terran profile. Contact was attempted. Response was silence. Weapons were armed. They fired warning shots. The Terran ship responded by deconstructing the shots, not deflecting them, not absorbing, but disassembling them mid-flight using field inversion algorithms derived from theoretical physics the Federation had banned. Seconds later, the Federation-lead ship experienced a total logic stack inversion. Its systems began speaking in Earth languages. Its gravity turned inward. All hands lost. The Terran ship did not pursue survivors. It simply broadcast. Judgment was never ours to deliver, but memory never needed permission. Panic erupted across the galactic inner ring. Media outlets labeled it the Earth phenomenon. Federation command councils reconvened. They launched propaganda campaigns, tried to explain it as rogue AI constructs using Terran iconography. But the people didn't believe them. Because in the core markets of every major city, a song began to play. Old, human, untraceable. I'll be seeing you in all the old familiar places. The voice of a woman no one remembered, from a world that no longer existed. It echoed in cafes, on orbital lifts, in low-gravity marketplaces. People didn't know the language, but they wept anyway. Meanwhile, the Eidolon Reclaimer arrived at the ruins of Delta Outpost 3, once a human Federation research hub, later condemned after the collapse. Now it was quiet, but not dead. Beneath the surface, something pulsed. They deployed 2 recon teams. Within hours, they discovered a vault, a spherical chamber untouched by decay. Inside, drifting in anti-grav suspension, was a single object. A cube. 6 faces. 6 symbols. Terran, but none matching any known language. Saran touched the surface. Pain lanced her skull, not physical, but historical. She saw Earth, not as it died, as it dreamed. Before war, before ruin, just oceans, cities, children drawing stars in notebooks. She stumbled back. Captain Thorne nodded. "It's not a weapon," he said. "It's a seed." Back at Federation High Command, a secret summit was called. Inquisitor Sarek spoke to the 12. "We allowed this," he admitted. "We classified them out of relevance. We convinced ourselves that silence meant death. And now," one of the 12 asked, "they are teaching the galaxy to remember. To what end?" Sarek's voice was low. "To be more than us." The next Terran strike was not on a military world. It was on Avalini, a cultural capital, the planet where Federation children were taught the collapse myths, where Earth was labeled a failed species. A moral warning. The Terran ship did not destroy the archives. It rewrote them. When teachers returned to work, they found thousands of new documents in the Federation core system. Videos, diaries, and censored footage of Earth's final decade. Not the propaganda, but the truth. A civilization trying to unify, trying to survive, being ignored, being erased. And in every file, one shared footer. "We did not vanish. You chose not to see." The effect was immediate. Teachers wept. Children asked to hear more. On 7 worlds, monument builders began work. Not because of Terran orders, but because something about the silence felt wrong now. And across the border sectors, rebel fleets hailed the Eidolon Reclaimer with signals not used since before the collapse. 3 words. "Earth is watching." Captain Thorne gathered his bridge crew. "This is not conquest," he reminded them. "We're not here to dominate." "But they've armed themselves," said Saran. "The Federation fleets are deploying." "I know." He placed his hand on the cube, the seed they recovered. "And now, for the first time, they know why we left." "Why did we?" Saran asked softly. He answered without hesitation. "Because we were never the monsters they feared." He looked at the stars. "We were the mirror they couldn't face." The Eidolon Reclaimer disappeared from Federation sensors within seconds after the Avalini intervention. Not because it fled, but because it no longer moved by conventional means. Its displacement signature didn't match standard physics. It had begun traveling through structured memory corridors, pathways laid down not by navigation charts, but by gravitational anomalies interwoven with pulses of Earth's own historical imprint. In short, It was traveling through the echoes of what had been lost. And those echoes had formed roads. At the edge of the Telvar constellation, in a region marked as unstable due to quantum distortions, the Reclaimer reappeared above Station Pinterest, once a deep science platform, now repurposed by Federation Tactical Command as a forward surveillance bastion. It was a message, not to destroy, but to demonstrate. The Reclaimer hovered for 1 hour, did not fire, did not respond to hails. Then it pulsed a signal, not data, not language. Emotion, a full bandwidth neural burst carrying sadness, awe, betrayal. Station personnel collapsed. Some wept, some screamed. Others simply stood frozen as the feeling overtook them. And in the transmission's wake came just 4 words. You forgot our name. Then the ship vanished again, not into space, but into remembrance. Inside Federation High Command, chaos erupted. Half the core worlds demanded immediate military reprisal. The other half hesitated, because everywhere the Terrans went, they didn't take territory. They took narrative. They unsealed archives, transmitted banned footage, reawakened histories the Federation had long suppressed. And in every corner of the galaxy, ordinary citizens began asking the same question. What else was erased? On the world of Selvar 9, a child opened a recovered Earth document labeled Starless Requiem. It was a short story, just 20 paragraphs, about a boy who believed stars were memories of things too powerful to die. By the end, his teacher had tears in her eyes. A week later, Selvar 9 voted to leave the Federation. The vote passed 84% in favor. Meanwhile, the Terran fleet grew, not from shipyards, but from awakening. Across dead sectors, forgotten moons, abandoned relay nests, ancient Terran vessels powered up. Some were autonomous constructs left behind at the collapse. Others were sleeper ships, now reactivated through resonance with the Reclaimer's signal. They rose in silence, each bearing a different phrase burned into their plating. We speak in echoes. Memory is a weapon. We never stop being human. The Federation deployed their most advanced anti-Sci fleet, the Resolute Chain, 37 vessels equipped with logic-neutralizing cannons and time-state compression grids. They intercepted a Terran convoy near the Prexor Fringe, ordered immediate surrender. The convoy didn't respond. Instead, it pulsed a logic sequence not seen since the early days of Earth's interaction with the Galactic Network, a recursive code-layered encryption based on music. And suddenly, the Federation flagship's systems began interpreting weapons as songs. Cannons refused to fire. Shields reconfigured into echo chambers. And from the speakers of every Federation ship came a soft Terran voice. Male, elderly, we forgive you, but we remember everything. The chain disengaged. No casualties. Only silence. Back on Earth, or what remained of it. In orbit above the broken blue world, a construct rose. The Monument of Stillness. Forged from recovered alloys, encoded in gravity wells, it didn't contain weapons. It contained stories. Each chamber recited part of the collapse. Each platform radiated an emotion from the final days. Visitors from distant systems arrived. Some left disturbed. Others changed. Because grief, when made into structure, becomes memory that cannot be colonized. In secret chambers within the Federation's Thought Doctrine Division, a growing faction began to ask, what if we were wrong? They called themselves the Reconciled. They didn't ask for Terran integration. They asked for truth. And in the shadows, one of them sent a message. Encrypted. Anonymous. To a known Terran signal node. It read, we know you didn't vanish. We're ready to listen now. Please, come home. The Reclaimer received it. Captain Thorne didn't smile, but his voice softened when he spoke. Prepare the gate. We're going to show them what home became when they stopped looking. The gate was not a structure. It was a wound. Once, it had been an ancient Terran experiment, an attempt to stabilize a fold between systems without needing a jump drive. The project had failed during the final decade of the collapse, severed by a chain reaction during Earth's orbital exodus. But failure, like memory, left scars. And through those scars, Terran engineers built something else. The Threshold, a transit corridor based not on physics, but on shared memory density. It opened only when enough minds believed in what waited on the other side. It should have been impossible. And yet, it pulsed now like a heartbeat. The Eidolon Reclaimer entered the threshold not with shields raised or weapons charged, but open. The outer hull softened into resonance state, allowing the ship to emit recorded thoughts, not signals. It told stories to the fold around it, childhoods lost, names remembered, moments of creation and surrender. And the threshold responded. It carried them not through space, but through acknowledgement. When they emerged, they weren't near a star or world. They floated in the gravity well of an idea made visible, a station built from the dreams of extinct colonies, fragmented but enduring. It was the archive of the abandoned. A megastructure formed from Terran ships that had once fled the collapse, each one fused together like coral around a forgotten star. The reclaimer docked. Lights flickered on for the first time in 80 standard years. And the station whispered, "You've returned. Not as survivors, but as keepers." Inside, Captain Thorne walked corridors lined with artifacts, not relics of war, but lives. A child's drawing on plastisheet, an unfinished sculpture, a journal that ended mid-sentence. Saran followed him silently, reading every object like scripture. "They preserved all of it," she said. "No, we did," Thorne answered, "even when we thought it was gone." He reached a chamber at the center. The walls were blank. But when he stepped forward, words appeared, not projected, but grown. "If they ever return, remind them. We were never what they feared. We were what they feared becoming." Back in the core worlds, the reconciled faction gained momentum. Public pressure forced the Federation to open hearings about the Terran silence. For the first time in over a century, official records were unsealed. The truth shocked even those who had long suspected injustice. Earth hadn't self-destructed. The Federation had isolated it, cut it off from trade, redirected asteroid belts, falsified communications, allowed atmospheric infrastructure to decay. In short, they had watched Earth die. On purpose. Not out of malice, but out of fear. The reconciled reached out again. This time publicly. A message transmitted across 70 sectors. "We did this, but we want to understand. Meet us. Speak. Let memory become bridge." The reclaimer received it. And this time, it answered, "We will come. But not to explain. To remember. Together." The meeting took place above the neutral moon of Iskar Primus, once a border outpost, now abandoned. A Terran envoy ship, the Whisper of Ash, arrived first. From the Federation, 5 ships followed. No weapons. No shields. Only people. The meeting hall was small. No recordings permitted. No AI. Only presence. Captain Thorne spoke first. "We are not ghosts." A reconciled delegate nodded. "We know that now. You feared our chaos. Our unpredictability. We feared losing control of the narrative." "You never had it," Saran said quietly. "You just stopped listening." A long pause. Then one of the Federation envoys stood. An old man. Once an archivist. Now stripped of rank. He opened a data cube. "I brought this," he said. "The original admission records. The ones that show Earth was never meant to be silenced. Only monitored. The plan went further than it should have." Thorne took the cube. Didn't look angry. Only tired. "Thank you," he said. Later that night, on the reclaimer, Thorne sat alone. He replayed an old Earth song. Scratchy, analog, imperfect. A woman's voice sang of longing, of stars, of home. He watched the stars outside the viewport and whispered, "We're almost remembered." The galaxy didn't change overnight. It resisted. At first, the Federation issued containment orders. Ships loyal to the old council were dispatched to worlds where Terran echoes had begun to spread, not to attack, but to silence again. But something had shifted. Whole colonies refused to comply, not out of allegiance to Earth, out of something deeper, a sense that truth, once tasted, couldn't be undone. On the agricultural world of Narration, farmers decommissioned their orbital satellites and replaced them with low-band Terran transceivers. The Federation responded by imposing a no-trade zone. Within 1 week, 6 nearby systems joined Naration's network, forming the first free archive ring. They called it the Remembering. It wasn't a rebellion. It was a story that refused to be deleted. The Eidolon reclaimer returned to Earth, not to land, but to hover. From orbit, the crew watched the broken continents spin beneath swirling clouds. The oceans had darkened. The atmosphere shimmered with scars. But Earth wasn't dead. It breathed, in silence. Thorne stood on the bridge beside Saran. "I never thought we'd see her with our own eyes." "We didn't," she said. "We saw her in us." In orbit, a new station had been built by the Terran fleet. It wasn't a command post. It was a school. One dedicated not to strategy, but to memory. Its name, New Dawn. Its first lesson, what silence costs. Back in the Federation, fractures widened. Some military sectors defected entirely, bringing not just firepower, but data. Sealed recordings of meetings where Earth's collapse was orchestrated by omission. Others tried to suppress it. They claimed the Terrans were rewriting history. But the truth was too old. Too big. Too felt. Because everywhere Earth's memory reached, the galaxy reacted not with fear, but with grief. And grief, once shared, becomes bond. The reconciled sent a final message. "The old order is dying. What comes next must include you." Thorne responded not with a fleet, but with a gift. He released the entirety of the Reclaimer's memory core, unrestricted, raw, uncurated. Millions of hours of Terran archives. Pain, joy, desperation, rebirth. He didn't ask them to believe it, only to watch it, to feel it. Across thousands of systems, they did. On the ancient moon temple of Avail, pilgrims gathered to hear Earth's last broadcast. For the first time in over a century, the final planetary message played aloud. This is Earth. We are still here. We are broken, but we remember. We are alone, but we hope. We are fading, but we speak. And if anyone hears us, don't forget who we were. 1,000 species listened, and no one moved. Meanwhile, the last of the silent Terran warships emerged from dark space. 17 in total, each one designed as a memory vessel, not a weapon. Each one representing a chapter of the past. They entered orbit over worlds once complicit in Earth's silence. They didn't fire. They simply waited. And when the time came, they opened their archives. Some worlds accepted them. Some rejected. But every world that listened changed forever. Because inside the data, woven into the magnetic patterns of forgotten songs, photos, confessions, poems, was truth that rewired civilizations. And you can't fight what turns your soldiers into mourners. A final council was held, not by the Federation, but by the galaxy itself. Delegates gathered not under banners, but beneath stars. And there, in front of a crowd numbering in the tens of millions, Chancellor Rel of the Zerakai spoke 5 words. We were wrong about Earth. The galaxy stood still. And when the silence passed, the crowd answered in unison. So were we. The stars did not sing. But something brighter than song began to unfold. Because remembering had become a force greater than war. They didn't build monuments. They built vaults. Not of stone or steel, but of shared thought in terse species archives, pulsing with light and emotion, encoded across space-time fractals so deeply no system could erase them. They called it the Lattice of Remembrance. Anchored in 17 systems, spanning 5 sectors, it was not a structure for power or defense. It was a promise that Earth would not be forgotten again. That no species would ever vanish beneath silence without someone listening. On New Dawn Station, orbiting the ruins of Earth, Yin Vague, now grown, now commander of the Archive Corps, stood in front of the newest class of delegates. Over 400 species represented. Many had once voted for Earth's erasure. Now they came to learn from it. She held a small cube, no larger than a fist. Inside was every recorded word ever spoken in Terran Standard during the last 10 days of the collapse. She didn't play them. She didn't have to. She simply said, memory is not permission. It is resistance. And this planet is where resistance began. They stood in silence. One of the delegates, an ex-Federation officer, placed a hand over his heart and whispered, we see you now. The Eidolon Reclaimer never returned to combat. It became the first mobile monument, drifting between systems, opening its archive wherever it was needed. At orphan colonies, on refugee vessels, in forgotten sectors filled with languages no longer spoken. Everywhere it went, it said the same phrase. We are the last breath you tried to silence. And we became a chorus. The Federation dissolved. Not with violence. With shame. Worlds withdrew. Borders were redrawn. What remained became the interlinked accord, a loose coalition of species, bound not by dominance, but by recognition of failure. And Earth? Earth was never rebuilt. Its surface remained scarred, uninhabited, by choice. Because sometimes, the grave is also the most powerful voice. Instead, humanity scattered, not as conquerors, not as rulers, but as keepers of memory. Every Terran child was taught only one law. You are not a weapon. You are what happens when truth refuses to die. On the anniversary of Earth's silence, the galaxy held a ritual. Not mourning, not regret, remembrance. One by one, systems dimmed their stars for 17 seconds. And in that darkness, voices rose, not in fear, not in anger, but in echo, songs, prayers, testimonies. And then, brightness returned. Because memory had become the light no empire could extinguish. Above the broken Earth, a line now circles endlessly in orbit, glowing faintly across the black. We were the forgotten. Now we are the remembering.